If you are one of those people, you've made a huge mistake, but that's okay because we can get you through it. So don't panic.
What is the biggest mistake that fish keepers make when they first start off in this hobby?
I think there's two. People that are brand new, just coming into this hobby, they just walked in. I think there's two. The first is what I call buying an aquarium on impulse. You go to the pet store, you're there for something unrelated to fish, and you see that betta tank or that goldfish or whatever, and you're like, oh, that looks cute. I want that. I'm going to take that home with me. If you are one of those people, you've made a huge mistake, but that's okay because we can get you through it. So don't panic. But that's the big thing. Knowing nothing about anything to do with aquariums, just seeing it and saying, I got to have that. The other is kind of piling on to that, which is not understanding anything about water chemistry, understanding what happens to water in aquariums with fish in it, and the fish are eating and they're pooping, and what effects does that have on the water, because that's the number one killer of fish. So do your research like you're doing right now before buying that first aquarium. Understand what all is involved, understand about water chemistry. If you've already bought your aquarium, then you're kind of doing it backwards. You need to do your research now, but you're okay. Like I said, we'll get you through it.
Okay, so this one kind of goes along with getting an aquarium and not doing your research. So let's say you already have your aquarium, you're cycling the tank, you are sort of, doing research and know a little bit about what's going on, but you connect with a fish at the fish store and you're like, I want that fish, it's cute, that's the one I have to have. I have a 10-gallon at home, but that parrotfish is mine. Or that Oscar fish, I gotta take it home because it's so cute, because it's this big and it's in a 10-gallon aquarium at the pet store. I think that is a very common mistake. Not knowing what size tank to put the fish in and just buying the fish first.
To add to that, we've done so many videos on this channel about kind of this topic, like just getting into it, what's the best way to get into it. And I'm pretty sure in every single one of those videos, I have always said, make your decision of what kind of fish you want to keep first, and then buy your tank to suit that fish. To prevent exactly what you just said. You get your heart set on an Oscar, well, then you do your research, you find out that an Oscar needs a big tank, it's going to need big filtration, it needs big food, there's only certain fish that can go with it. You have that, that going in before you get your heart set on it, like you said, and you end up doing the wrong thing. If you buy the tank first, then you're limited to the fish that you can get. It's like, well, I have a 10-gallon, so these are the only fish that I can get, when you might connect with that fish, like you said. And so, yeah, but it all comes down to research. It all comes down to knowing what you're getting into before you spend a single penny. And the beautiful thing about that, it used to be hard to do that, but now it's super easy to learn as much as you can. You're never going to learn everything. I don't know everything. You don't know everything.
No.
But know as much as you can before spending any money and before putting any of these animals' lives at risk.
Exactly.
Okay, so I got a question for you. A lot of people coming into this hobby look at aquariums as something that is almost like a decoration. They just get it, they put it in the corner, and it's adorable and cute. They don't realize the work that's involved in keeping an aquarium. You keep a whole lot of them. So I'd like to ask you, how much work is involved in an aquarium? If a new fish keeper's coming in, they're doing their research like they should be doing. They're being good fish keepers. How much work is involved in keeping an aquarium? Let's just use the easiest example. We've already been talking about it. A 10-gallon tank. Somebody buys a 10-gallon how much work is involved, and you have to give some times too. Like how many hours per week is somebody going to be
Right.
putting into it and stuff?
Well, I would say a 10-gallon aquarium is going to be, it's going to be as much work as you want it to be. Do you want to have a heavily planted 10-gallon aquarium where you're trying to keep plants alive and fish, or are you just trying to have a fish with a few pretty decorations in there? So I think it's going to be up to you. If you want to have a lot more going on, you're going to spend a little bit more time taking care of that fish tank, learning how to take care of it, water changes and all of that. But if it's just, a 10-gallon aquarium, you have a few fish in there or one betta and a couple little decorations, you're not going to spend as much time having to take care of that. You're going to have less to move around when you do your water changes, because you have to, you have to siphon your substrate. You need to take care of your filters and all that. But the less fish you have in there, the less amount of water you need to take out. So your timing is going to be maybe an hour tops taking care of that fish tank as far as cleaning it. Of course, every day you're going to want to feed your fish, and that's another thing. Are you feeding your fish 2 or 3 times a day or once a day? So the more you feed your fish, the more often you might need to change the water in your tank. And I would suggest no more than twice a day, small amounts.
Absolutely. But let's go, strictly bare bones basics.
Okay.
Let's face it, not many new fish keepers are going to get a CO2 system and high-tech lights and all of this stuff
Right.
for plants and for exotic rare fish. Most people are going to start out with that 10-gallon tank with some tetras
Or mollies or
right,
something,
and a
yeah.
couple of fake plants and a little hang on the back filter that came as part of the starter kit, and that's what they're going to have. And I agree 100%. If I don't agree 100%, it would be even a little less than an hour per week.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
if
I
you
said hour
total-
tops.
Yeah, if you total it all out, like every time you walk up to the fish tank to put food in there, you're calculating that as
Right.
part of the time. Maybe it all adds up to an hour a week, but very little time per week. A 10-gallon tank is a really quick maintenance, really quick water change.
absolutely.
Super easy. Nothing's really heavy. It's very quick and very easy. So you shouldn't be looking at any more than a half an hour to an hour. And that's, if you're spending an hour a week on a 10-gallon aquarium, you're like keeping it at museum quality. Like you're doing
Right.
it perfect.
Well,
Everything
you
is
do
perfect.
have to clean the algae off the side, and you gotta
10-gallon
keep
tank, it takes 40 seconds.
Okay, whatever. And another thing to be said about that is if you're a very busy person and you have a busy life, your job keeps you gone from home a lot, you probably don't want any more than a 10-gallon tank. So keep that in mind when you start going to the fish store and seeing a bunch of different fish you like. The more tanks you have, the more time you're going to be spending taking care of them. So
And you know what? There's probably going to be people that are going to say, well, it's just too much. I'm just too busy. I can't do that. Come on. Nobody's that busy. You can take care of a 10-gallon tank. I don't care. I know some of the busiest people on earth, and they can take care of a 10-gallon tank. So, yeah, it's really not that difficult. And once it's going and established, you probably don't even need to spend that hour per week.
Oh, yeah.
So it's really not a big deal. Not overly time-consuming, but this is something that every new fish keeper should know. I don't know hardly anybody that only has one aquarium,
this is true.
including us. I mean, we've got a lot. If you don't include our business tanks, we still have a lot. So you have to know that going in. This is a very addictive hobby. It's something that it becomes more of a lifestyle than it is a hobby. And once you start to fall in love with it, you start to see, oh, I want those fish, but they can't be in that tank with the fish that I currently have. Plus,
Right.
that tank isn't big enough, so I need a bigger one. I need more filtration. And it can get out of control really quick. You're going to see, if you're brand new to this, you're just starting your research, you're going to see people talk about MTS,
Right.
which stands for multi-tank syndrome. It happens. It happens to the best of us. this hobby or this lifestyle completely consumes you, and next thing you know, you have entire rooms that are dedicated to your aquariums. So know that going in too. If you can't spend that hour per week maintaining your aquarium, you might want to stay away, because this could become a real problem real fast, where you're spending half your life taking care of aquariums.
Not only that, once you get heavily involved, you'll find yourself in live stream chats a lot of different live stream chats. And then you're probably going to want to start a YouTube channel. So just be prepared.
Yep. I know people that have done that, a few.
Yeah, a lot. So I think a lot of people are misled, and they think that keeping fish might actually be cheap and not as expensive as it could be. And that could be a problem if you're going into it thinking you're not spending a lot of money, and then a few months later you're getting put on the couch because you spent half the grocery money on fish stuff.
Yeah, and it, part of that goes back to what we were just talking about with multi-tank syndrome.
Right.
But starting off from the very beginning, yeah, you're absolutely right. And I do think that maybe there is a little of intention there by the manufacturers to make people believe that this is something that you can get into for relatively cheap,
Right.
Especially with the starter kits and things like that are available.
Mm-hmm.
Those starter kits are great. I mean, I believe in those. They're good. But yeah, you look at that box and you're like, well, this says everything is included, and it even comes with, all of the chemicals and things like that you might need. But it's far from all the money that you're going to have to spend.
Exactly.
I mean, there's so much more. This lifestyle, I don't want to call it a hobby anymore. I want to call it a lifestyle. It goes so deep with the things that cost money. And as you go on with this hobby, the money gets bigger and bigger and bigger, because you want more advanced filtration and more advanced lighting and all this kind of stuff. But the starter kits come with the glass box, the lid, the light, the heater, and the filter,
Right.
which is great. Those are the main components that you need for an aquarium, but they don't come with any decorations. Obviously, they don't come with the fish. And when it says that they come with the chemicals, it comes with one treatment of water
Right.
conditioner for your tank and all of that. Water conditioners are not outrageously expensive, but that is something that you're going to have to regularly buy to be able to treat your water before you put it in there. But not only that, you've got to buy some substrate. You've got to buy decorations. You've got to fill it up with water, which a 10-gallon isn't going to cost you really anything. But there is a lot of things on top of that new starter kit that you're going to be spending money on. So when you're just walking in the door, it is going to be more money than you think. But as the hobby continues to take over your life, it's going to get even bigger. I mean, all of the price tags are going to go up, because you're going to want, I'm repeating myself, but you're going to want the bigger tank, which means you need the bigger filtration, you need the bigger lighting, you need everything's
yeah.
bigger.
And
And it
let's
just
not-
keeps going and going and going.
And let's not forget that 10-gallon or 20-gallon starter kit, let's go with the 10-gallon starter kit because this makes more sense. That fish that's on the box will lead you to have to buy a bigger tank down the road.
Good point.
Especially when you find out that cute little goldfish on the front of a 10-gallon starter kit will not be okay in a 10-gallon starter kit 6 months later. So you end up having to buy a bigger tank.
Did you just discover a fish keeping conspiracy? YouTube doesn't like conspiracies, but
Oh.
did you just uncover that? Is that true? They do that on purpose?
Oops.
They do it on purpose. They put goldfish in 5-gallon tanks, knowing that you're going to fall for that. You're going to buy that fish, put it in a 5-gallon, and then quickly realize, oh no, I need to get a 75-gallon. You might be onto something
Yeah,
there.
maybe.
You may have just uncovered a huge conspiracy.
You never
This
know.
industry is going to come crashing down, and it's all going to stem from this.
It's all my
video.
fault. It's all my fault. It's all my fault.
We've been complaining, you more than me, about those boxes for a long time.
Yeah.
Those boxes at the pet store that have the big fish in a small tank, and yeah, that is a huge problem. So maybe that's another thing that you should know if you're just coming into this. Don't fall for everything that the manufacturers put on there. we're joking around about a conspiracy. I don't really think that they're doing that, but they will mislead you into believing that you can put a goldfish into a 5-gallon tank and that's going to be perfectly fine. It's
Right.
not. So, know that going in too. We're uncovering all kinds of stuff here today. This is
Wow.
fun.
Yeah.
But to continue what you were talking about, or what you were asking about with the money, this is not a cheap hobby. It's
No,
not a cheap hobby
not
at
at all.
There's a lot of hobbies that are way more expensive than this. But if you want to get into this hobby because you think it's going to be cheap, because you're just going to set it up, put it in the corner and forget about it, throw a couple of flakes in there every day, it's not. Understand, we know people that have gotten into serious trouble because of spending money on aquariums. So yeah, it's not cheap, but it's not the most expensive hobby either. So we've talked about setting up the aquarium, doing the research, getting everything ready and all of this kind of stuff and knowing what you're getting into before you do it. We've talked about the amount of work that's involved, the amount of money that's involved, but there's one big question, and that is that a lot of new people come to this hobby, we've said it multiple times, thinking they're just going to fill the glass box up with water and it's going to be easy. Is this an easy hobby?
No. No, this hobby requires so much patience. And, we see so many comments that are like, I just lost my fish. I don't know why. I lost all the fish in my aquarium. I just want to give up. I want to quit. And it's so sad because, when you're not doing your research prior to getting an aquarium and getting a fish, you end up regretting it. And then you want to quit. And I hate to see something like that happen to anybody and the fish, because all it takes is a little bit of patience, some research, research. It's such a big deal. And it can be easy once you learn. When you learn how to do things, when you learn how to, cycle an aquarium and you learn which fish goes with, which other fish you have, then it can be so easy. But in the beginning, it is not easy and it requires a lot of patience.
Yeah, I would never describe this hobby as easy. But what I will say is most of the people that I know that are fish keepers enjoy the work.
Right.
Yeah, the prize is just being able to look at the tank and stare at your fish and enjoy your fish and watching them interact with their environment and all this kind of stuff. I sit here while you're answering questions and I just watch those yellow labs behind you and I'm mesmerized. That's the prize for this.
Right.
But you do have to do work to get there. And most fish keepers appreciate that work because they know that they get the prize at the end.
Once you get through the beginning, the new fish keeper phase, once you get through that, this can be one of the most rewarding hobbies you're ever involved in. So
100% agree. Yep, it's true. It's not easy, but it's also not incredibly hard either.
Right.
So yeah, there you go. There are some things that new fish keepers need to know. These are big issues. Some thought needs to be put into it. The money, the work, the knowledge that you need.
the patience.
Patience, the ability to control your impulses. These are all absolutely critical things. If you lost control of those impulses and you happened upon this video after the fact, I hope we were able to help you a little bit understand what's involved in this. We're not trying to scare anybody. This isn't an overwhelming, scary nightmare hobby. It's a rewarding, beautiful hobby, but it does take some patience, take some money, and it takes some work to get there. So hope we were able to help you out with that. Thank you so much for watching. I love your new idea. These videos are a lot of fun to do. So let us know in the comment section if you enjoy this format, this kind of video. We'd love to hear from you. And until we do this again, we'll see you next time.